This is GTV. To be this good takes ages.
Sega.
Human beings are in a unique position these days, as if you so desire to take a trip to way back when, all you have to do is pull up the internet and BAM! You're there! Instant time machine. If you've been around since the dark ages like me, this is an amazing thing because you can relive so many memories and see things from different times and places that, growing up, were alien and unknown. And since we're all game fans, that means digging up the things we couldn't play or didn't know about. Not just games themselves, but magazines, soundtracks, and CMs. Those are my favorite. You can cross regions and learn what the order of the day was in Japan, the UK, Australia, Bulgaria, or anywhere actually, and likewise they, us. That exploration is fun, but often the picture is incomplete. One such artifact of the past that I've come to know very well is Segata Sanshiro. He had a successful run of commercials for the Sega Saturn in the 1990s. We all know him and have seen at least one CM, but there's much more to the story than a bunch of crazy Japanese commercials from days gone by. So I say, it's time to tell the full story and share all there is to know about this guy. Give you every minor contextual detail and try to give you the feeling of being placed in Japan in the 90s, seeing him on TV. And, just maybe, leave you walking away enlightened. So grab a white Sega Saturn and celebrate, because Segata Sanshiro is 25. Well, almost, anyway. Sega has had a long history of using celebrity endorsers in its advertising campaigns. Going all the way back to 1983, they've been hiring popular talents to promote their machines and games. In fact, rare was it that Sega advertised the game without some kind of spokesman or tie-in. So it was no surprise when in November 1997, a now beloved face would appear. A man known as Segata Sanshiro, a tough, towering brute of a man, dressed in a judo gi, kicking a double crooked letter, and urging everyone to get the Sega Saturn. Now, in white. The CMs themselves barely mentioned the games in most cases, but that didn't matter. For the rest of the Saturn's days in Japan, all that mattered was Segata Sanshiro. You know what? I could ramble on about how great the CMs are, or just shut up and let you see some. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I'll explain just who Segata Sanshiro is, and why he was such a hit in Japan. If your favorite CM isn't in this batch, don't worry. I'll be playing all of them eventually. So stay here.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
野球しようぜ。
オッケー。
行こう行こう。お前ら今日はやったよ。
任しとけ。
Segata Sanshiro。
Segata Sanshiro。
セガサターンしろ。音速ハリネズミソニックのレースゲームソニック R。セガサターン。
朝まで怒ろうぜ。Segata Sanshiro。はあ。ほら。
Segata Sanshiro。
セガサターンしろ。3つのドラマの RPG シャイニングフォース3セガサターン。セガターンセガサンシロボンバーマン。
超立体型で燃えまくれ。サターンボンバーマンファイト。
セガサターン。
サンタさん来るかな。来るかな。
セガサターンしろ。セガタ三四郎からのプレゼント、三四郎ディスクもついている。セガサターン。 遊びの道に魂込めた一人の男が今日も行く真面目に遊ばぬ奴らには体で覚えさせるぞセガタ三四郎セガタ三四郎セガサタ四郎とや
To understand the full reasoning behind why a character like Segata Sanshiro exists involves a three-part approach. First, the actor. The man who played Segata Sanshiro was in reality Hiroshi Fujioka. Born as Kunihiro Fujioka, he had built up quite a resume by 1997 in TV, advertisements, and film. The career of Hiroshi Fujioka goes all the way back to 1965, when at age 19, he appeared in the film Anko no Tsubaki wa Koi no Hana. He would appear in other films soon after, playing more serious and sometimes romantic roles, contrasting what he would later become famous for. In 1970, Fujioka would appear in the crime drama Gold Eye, casting him as a gritty action hero. The next year, his career would become immortalized, as Hiroshi Fujioka would play Takeshi Hongo, the original Kamen Rider. The debut incarnation of Kamen Rider ran for 2 years, and soon exploded into its own empire, with near-annual feature films and a weekly TV show that still runs to this day. Hiroshi Fujioka has reprised his role as Takeshi Hongo several times since the show's end in 1973. Most recently, in 2016, he starred in Kamen Rider 1, produced for the series' 45th anniversary. Fujioka's main run in Kamen Rider turned him into a certified star, and he has appeared in countless action roles ever since. Here are just a few. Fujioka's most high-profile dramatic role is of Japanese feudal lord Oda Nobunaga, whom he has portrayed in several films over the years. Fujioka was known overseas for Nihon Chinbotsu, meaning, in English, The Sinking of Japan, a disaster thriller released in 1973. In this film, volcanic activity threatens to submerge the entire nation of Japan under the Pacific Ocean. This film was released in the US as Tidal Wave, with some scenes added featuring American actors, but retaining most of the core film. Nearly 40 years later, in 2011, Hiroshi Fujioka would star in Nihon Igai Zenbu Chinbotsu, meaning in English, The Sinking of Everything Except Japan, a dark comedy based on the original film, where Japan is left as the only nation on Earth above water. Probably, well, there's no probably. The weirdest comedy role he's ever had was in Kani Goalkeeper, released in 2006, where Fujioka is the coach of a soccer team who has a literal giant crab as the goalie. Hiroshi Fujioka has also appeared in some video games, with voiceover roles in the Shenmue and Kingdom Hearts series, Fist of the North Star, Legend of Kenshiro, and lots of Kamen Rider games. In sci-fi, historical, and modern roles, Hiroshi Fujioka is one of the great action stars of Japan. If you were to compare him to a Western contemporary, Sylvester Stallone might be a good comparison. Secondly, the name of the character, Segata Sanshiro, has a story worth telling too. The character is a parody of Segata Sanshiro, a novel about Japan's first judo master, which was turned into a film released in 1943. The film was the first full feature directed by Akira Kurosawa. Segata Sanshiro received a direct sequel in 1945, was released in the West as Judo Saga in 1974, and has been remade several times since the original film's release. Third, Segata Sanshiro was based on a real-life person, Saigo Shiro. Born in 1866, he brought judo to the masses in Meiji-era Japan. Saigo Shiro was a master fighter who was able to take down opponents much larger in size, up to 30 kilograms heavier than himself, drawing large crowds to see his amazing feats in person. He was also the first man in history to earn a black belt. So, to bring this all together, you have the actor, Hiroshi Fujioka, a well-known star, the name, Segata Sanshiro, a play on Segata Sanshiro, and that was based off of the real-life Saigo Shiro. All of that hits you at once in a seemingly innocent video game commercial. To your average Japanese person living in 1997, it would make an impression. You'd get the nuance, references, enjoy the CM, and later the whole series with Segata Sanshiro. As I said earlier, a good analog for Hiroshi Fujioka is Sylvester Stallone, because the whole makeup of his character, Segata Sanshiro, would kind of be like having Rocky Balboa in a series of ads. Stallone, a very well-known tough guy who played Rocky, who is a composite of a few different famous fighters, a few of which were actually named Rocky. That's as close of a comparison as I can make, and that's pretty much the feel Japanese people had in 1997 when it all started to sink in. All of this was dreamed up by the marketing department at Sega, a layered character loaded with history, culture, and puns. And fighting. Sure, on the surface, to those of us not in the know, it looks like some crazy nonsense, but the reality is that it was very far from that. Let's take another break and look at another set of those classic CMs. And when we come back, I'll break down the Sega Saturn saga that is Segata Sanshiro.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
頭を使う表裏一体頭脳ゲームソロクライシス
セガサタンセガタ三四郎セガタ三四郎セガサタンシロアズイル
伝説のドラゴンと共に戦いの旅へパンツァードラグーン RPG アーゼロ
セガサタンセガタ三四郎セガタ三四郎セガサタンシロ冬こそ燃えろ
今年の冬を制覇しろウィンターヒート
セガサタン
人命救助ソニックチーム最新作近未来レスキューアクションバーニングレンジャー
セガサタンセガタ三四郎セガタ三四郎セガサタンシロ
ホームラン98年最新データでペナント先通りグレイテストナイン98
セガサタン若者よ
The Sega Saturn was very popular in Japan, and between 1994 and 2000 had nearly 1,000 games released for it. Sega has always had a strong media presence in its home country, where it felt like practically every game had a CM about it, though most of them, with celebrity endorsement or not, always featured the games more than anything else. But with Segata Sanshiro, Sega changed gears and moved the focus to behind the character more than the games. In fact, the plots of some of the CMs have nothing to do with the games at all. The first one appeared in November 1997 for the upcoming racing game Sonic R. Three boys are on the way to baseball practice when they are met by Segata Sanshiro. He then takes them to the woodshed and tells them to play Sega Saturn, now in white. This is followed by 4 seconds of Sonic R gameplay to end the CM. A week or so later, Segata Sanshiro shows up at a nightclub, clears the room, and again tells everyone to play Sega Saturn, which by the way also comes in white. To end 1997, Segata Sanshiro appears as Santa to some lucky kids, whom he leaves a Sega Saturn 4 as a present. It seems like maybe, now just maybe, Sega got some feedback on the character, as moving into 1998, the CMs change into montages of judo training, rather than just assaulting everyone within eyesight. He spent most of the winter training, running in the woods, carrying the giant white Sega Saturn, and having practice matches with sparring partners, who explode. By spring 1998, he's seen back out in public, saving people from fires, speed skating, and gutting fish. All in a day's work to promote the Sega Saturn, which you could now buy with a white color option. As these CMs were hitting the airwaves in Japan, Segata Sanshiro was growing in popularity, and Sega, all along, had been working on a game featuring the most famous proselytizer of its 32-bit machine, announcing that on October 29, 1998, you could play Segata Sanshiro Shinken Yuugi. In English, that means serious games. It's also worth noting that the game was advertised as Kari, which means not really. Though the times were good for Segata Sanshiro, it was not meant to last, as his final CM would appear in October 1998 to promote his own game. And though the Sega Saturn was a fine machine, Sega was ready to enter the next generation with the Dreamcast. Segata Sanshiro, from afar, spots a terrorist group, probably Nintendo, launching a missile aimed right at Sega HQ. With no time to spare, Segata Sanshiro flies into the air, straddles the missile, and veers it off path, into outer space and safely out of harm's way, sacrificing his own life in a final act of heroism. The game, Shinken Yuugi, is then dedicated to his memory, wherein Segata Sanshiro will live on forever in all of our hearts. Time to sit back and watch a few more of Segata Sanshiro's classic CMs, and when we come back, a look at the Shinken Yuugi game and more.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送り。
こいつは人間じゃねえ。ゾンビは10年でザ・ハウス・オブ・ザ・デッド。セガサだ。セガタ三四郎、セガタ三四郎、セガサタ。みんなで戦い。ゴチャキャラバトルで戦いに勝つ。シミュレーション RPG ドラゴンフォース2。セガサタ。セガタ三四郎、セガタ三四郎、セガサタ。ナイスプレー。選手になってフランスで勝つ。ワールドカップ98フランス。セガサタ。セガタ三四郎、セガタ三四郎、セガサタ。名監督。世界初サッカー RPG 日本代表チームの監督になろう。セガサタ。
もしも誰かを好きになったら銀河に胸をこぎ出すでしょう。もしも誰かを好きになったら星にもワルツまた会えたね。踊らせましょう。
待望の第2弾ドラマチックアドベンチャー桜大戦2。セガサタ。
On October 29, 1998, Sega released the Segata Sanshiro Shinken Yuugi game for the Sega Saturn. Sure, they knew the character would be retired, and there couldn't have been a better way to send him off than with his own game. Shinken Yuugi is a collection of 10 minigames that feature Segata Sanshiro. In one way or another, each minigame is based on a CM that he did. Also, the disc features every commercial in the best resolution you're ever gonna get, unless they remake the game. Each minigame comes with a short explanation of how to play it, and off you go. In I Will Show You the Essence of Dancing, you control Segata and must follow the rhythm timed out to button combinations on your controller. Do it right and Segata will show off some great moves on screen. In Emergency Explosion, Segata engages in a judo fight with different robots that you have to grapple with and control across a minefield. Be sure to push them over an active mine to blow them up quickly. In Take It, This Is My Present, Segata, as Santa, must throw presents from his sleigh into chimneys as he flies by. In When You're Stuck, Use Your Head, Segata is breaking concrete blocks in the woods using only the power of his head, just like in the commercial. In The Secret Technique, This Is the Power of the Dragon Gods, Segata is standing on top of a cliff and is punching dragons that fly by. Some of them have Segata riding them as well. Watch carefully, count how many dragons have Segata riding on top, and guess the right number to win. In I'll Save You, Segata is running through a burning building, up to the 15th floor, to rescue someone inside. In Who Am I, the player must flip through a series of pictures, and you have to find all the ones that match. In Run, My Burning Soul, Segata is running barefoot on an icy track. Use the power meters in your legs to run up to 99 kilometers per hour. In I Won't Get in the Way of Training, Segata is cleaning up all kinds of garbage, kicking them into a giant recycling bin. In Special Training, The Sea is My Battlefield, Segata gets his own version of columns. Basically, 3 sea animal shapes will fall from the sky, and connecting 3 of the same will clear them from the screen. Hurry up and clear them all before Segata drowns. When you clear each minigame, 1 CM related to the theme of that game will play. Clear all 10 and you'll get a music video for the Segata Sanshiro theme song. Not all of the videos are available while playing the game, but if you set the Saturn's internal clock to January 1st, you can unlock all of them. There are also radio jingles you can listen to as well.
Segata Sanshiro! Segata Sanshiro 役の藤岡弘です。今日は君たち若者ではなく、君たちの親御さんに聞きたいことがあります。
If you didn't have a Sega Saturn, the CMs, as well as a few widgets, were packed together and sold for Windows 98 PCs as Segata Sanshiro Superman Legend. And about that song, the Segata Sanshiro theme song was released in Japan as a 3-inch CD single on February 15, 1998. A remixed version was released later that same year by DJ Segata. The original CD single managed to sell 100,000 copies. The song itself bears a resemblance to the Kamen Rider theme song from 1971, which was also sung by Hiroshi Fujioka. On top of that, there were action figures of Segata Sanshiro released in 1998 as well. These go for about $100 online these days, so save your money. There's still more, as Segata Sanshiro managed to make appearances in the 21st century. An amazing feat considering he's dead. When we come back, the aftermath and legacy of Segata Sanshiro.
この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
海のフォラー寄生するウイルス逃げ場のない絶望深海ホラーサスペンスディープフィアセガサタンセガタゲームチャートスチーム度満点蒸気を動力源とする近未来これが世紀末スチームパンクワールド超大作シミュレーション RPG バッケンローダーセガタ魂込めた一人の男が今日も行く真面目に遊ばぬ奴らには体で覚えさせるぞセガタ三四郎セガタ三四郎セガサタン四郎セガサタンあとはドリームキャストの発売を待つばかりだ
セガサタンシロセガサタンシロセガサタンシロ
セガタ三四郎は君たちの心に。真剣遊戯。セガサターン。
By November 1998, Segata Sanshiro was gone from the airwaves in Japan. The Sega Saturn was about to be replaced by the Dreamcast. Though the two machines coexisted for some time, we all know that the introduction of newer, better hardware means saying goodbye to the older. With Segata Sanshiro killed off, the Dreamcast had a new spokesman, real-life executive Hidekazu Yukawa. He appeared in his own set of Dreamcast commercials beginning in November 1998. He too would have his own CD single and video game as well. And as an aside, he appeared in some Sega CMs back in the early 80s as well. As part of the promotion for the Dreamcast in 1998, Hidekazu Yukawa appeared on several TV news and talk programs. On one appearance, he was joined by Segata Sanshiro, who wished Yukawa, the Dreamcast, and Sega well on its new venture. The moment was seen by fans as a passing of the torch. It was not the end of Segata Sanshiro though. Naturally, the actor who played him, Hiroshi Fujioka, moved on to other things in his career, which still continues today, but the character Segata still pops up from time to time. On December 31st, 1998, Segata Sanshiro appeared on the annual Kohaku Uta Gassen. If you aren't familiar with that, it's a singing contest broadcast live every New Year's Eve on NHK. All of the singers involved are either on the red team or the white team, and at the end, one team is declared the winner. Segata Sanshiro joined the white team and came on stage to announce a performance by Tokyo. He then changed costumes to Takeshi Hongo, Kamen Rider 1 to battle the Ika Devil. In Netto Golf for the Dreamcast, Segata Sanshiro is an unlockable character. To play him in the game, you have to win the Triathlon Tour. He will also appear in the end screen of the game too. In Rent-A-Hero 1 for the Dreamcast and Xbox, Segata Sanshiro makes an appearance as the owner of a dojo. In Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii U, you can see Segata Sanshiro riding a rocket with a white Sega Saturn strapped to his back, while racing on the Race of Ages track. You can see lots of other classic Sega characters and hardware as well. In Project Cross Zone 2 Brave New World, released in 2015 for the Nintendo 3DS, Segata Sanshiro appears as a solo unit. Fujioka returned as Segata in March 2013 at a live concert thrown by Sega and spoke to the crowd with Sega advertising producer Koji Ando about the character and the making of each CM. He then joined in a sing-along of some of the best Sega songs from the Saturn era. Segata Sanshiro also made a brief cameo in an episode of the anime Sega Hard Girls from 2014. Segata Sanshiro returned in person to Sega Fest 2019 in March that year. This event featured the Mega Drive Mini for the first time, as well as other upcoming Sega games, live music, and PR events. When Segata Sanshiro hit the stage, Sega kindly informed everyone that he, the real Segata Sanshiro, was indeed still alive despite being blown up in outer space 22 years ago. What will the future hold for Segata Sanshiro and Sega? No one knows. Will a Sega Saturn Mini appear someday with Segata returning as the pitchman? One could only hope. But until the next time we see him, please carry on his legacy so that he will forever live on in all of our hearts.